Hello, I am the awkward GM Corbin, and today, a day that I think we've all been waiting for to some extent. It is Curseborne Day. It is finally here. So many people have been waiting for it. I am happy to say that I'm excited for it as well. I put a poll up. I might put it up again later on, but which Curseborne lineage are you most excited about? Cast your vote now. I know I'm really excited for the Outcasts and the Hungry in particular. They're some of my favorite. A little bit of a change as far as the theming go theming goes of this. This is a manuscript that is currently out on BackerKit. If you want to back it yourself, you can over at Curseborne's Kickstarter page. Did I say BackerKit? I'm always mixing those up. It's Kickstarter. In any case, right now, if I am correct, we are currently at a whopping $70,900 with 902 backers and only 29 days left to go. And I think as far as stretch goals go, we have already hit the first one, which is the Tangled Web supplement, where Onyx Path will create a supplement for Curseborne that contains strange liminalities and shared spaces based on real places to use in your game. All backers will receiving the Curseborne PDF as one of their rewards will have this automatically added as a bonus reward. So this means that so long as you've pledged at the accursed or higher level, which is the $25 or higher level, you will get the Tangled Web supplement, which I don't know if it's a PDF only. I feel like it's probably PDF only, but we'll see when that happens. The next stretch goal is, of course, the fiction anthology, which will unlock 2 short stories. It makes me think that they'll unlock further short stories, which would be awesome. In any case, we also have, if you want to, this right now is me just sort of giving a quick overview of what you can see in the manuscript copy of Curseborne. This is going to have the introductory chapter and the world chapter. I can't go over all of it in detail because, of course, you should be backing the project if you haven't already. But if you haven't, this will give you an idea of what to expect from the manuscripts. General overview, you're going to get essentially a PDF copy of the book without the layout and without most of the artwork. So I'll just show you the first page right here. As you can see, it's sort of like a web page. To make things a little bit more fun, I have a slideshow here that I will throw over. And when I am covering too much in detail, and just so that you can't just pause and copy and paste the entire thing and throw it on as leaks or whatever. To get you a little bit of the overview of what the setting is, let me read just the first two paragraphs here. There's a story about a woman who died and came back again. She woke up to find police all around her. She couldn't tell them she wasn't dead because she knew by lack of breath and still heart that this wasn't true. She waited until she was back in the ambulance, all zipped into her black bag, and slipped away while no one was watching. No one knew what happened to her. The police wrote it off. The emergency responders made a joke, missing persons poster, and her family grieved. Within a week, everyone forgot about her. She did not forget about them. She was a monster now, a dead thing trapped in her own body, and for the life of her, she couldn't figure out what she had done to deserve this fate. Now, Curseborne is a game about being unapologetic monsters in a world where being monstrous is the least of your worries. In Curseborne, you play as a cursed, descendants of monstrous lineages lurking in a modern world that resembles our own. You rebel against the ancient feuds between the entwined families, as well as against the web of curses that bind you, while fending off inhuman antagonists seeking to claim or reclaim your power. Now, if you have any questions about Curseborne that you want to answer, I will try to answer them as best as I can in here. We do have a bunch of things to go over, but if we have time at the end, I will totally answer any questions people have. Feel free to drop a line in here. Now, first up, I'm just going to cover some of the core concepts that are here within in the game. So we have stuff like everyone is cursed. Curses are everywhere. They affect everything. Normal people and supernatural are affected by curses as daily occurrences. When a normal person gets hit with a curse, they don't sit around bemoan their fate. They chalk it up to bad luck and move on with their lives. Everything is connected. This isn't just a world full of random bad things happening to random people. It's a web of curses and everything's connected. So basically, from what I'm gathering from that, it's very much similar to like the fate that binds. You're essentially going to have a binding of, you're going to have your character history or your character, what happens to your characters is sort of like going to happen because it's been fated to happen a little bit. There's a little bit of predestination in there, maybe. I think mileage may vary for your story guide, in my opinion. Now, we do have the family drama at the heart of the game of Curseborne. Love them or hate them, the family is the only constant in your life. Just like normal families, everyone has one, regardless of if they want them. Whatever family drama you could envision for a normal family is part of an accursed family, only weirder and more lethal. Then we have, at the personal level, the Curseborne core rulebook is designed to enable stories that happen at an individual level. You aren't fighting against a giant megacorporation. You are fighting against the bad manager who won't let you take a lunch break. This is where the street level aspect of the game is talked about a lot. I know Danielle was saying that basically this first core rulebook is going to be focusing mostly on the street level, whereas future books are going to be focusing on more detailed things, such as like the higher entanglement levels. It was confirmed in an AMA with the developers that the book is going to include up to entanglement 4. And I think past that, there is entanglements higher of, I think it's 5 to maybe 9. I'm not too sure about that. So don't take that one with a grain of salt. Now, we do have, after it being at the personal level, the ground level, it talks about urban myths. I love the word urban myths. It's one of my favorite things. Stories you've heard are true. The weird woman who lives at the end of the road is a witch, and the strange sound people keep hearing at night is a werewolf hunting by moonlight. Urban myths, ghost stories, and local legends are all rooted in the real and terrible things that stalk the world. So this is the aspect of the creepypasta stuff coming into the game. You have the horror stories and various things that you are familiar with the urban fantasy, urban horror genre. However, there is hope. In a grim world of curses and terror, true defiance is aggressively choosing to advocate for yourself and the ones you love. It's expressing radical empathy and forcing changes rather than accepting a passive understanding of the status quo. Your character rejecting the idea that they are damned and there is nothing they can do about it is the strongest form of rebellion you can mount. We do also have a little bit here going into the moth icon that is used, which is kind of... the moth is iconic to accursed because it isn't just drawn to lights. It gnaws away at fabric, leaving holes in the tapestry. It has come out of its cocoon and become something new and different. Accursed identify with the moth. Their curse has metamorphosized them. They seek out the light and they yearn to cut holes in the web of curses that bind them to finally find freedom. If you have, again, I will reiterate, if you have any questions about Curseborne, please toss it in here. I'll try to get to them as best I can. There isn't a lot to cover, so I probably have a lot of time to answer any questions. I am a little bit limited in what I can talk about in regards to essentially anything that's more publicly facing. I can't go into anything that might be still yet to be revealed. I will, however, show you guys this page of the Word document, PDF document. This is how to use the book. Now, essentially, something that you should know when you get these PDFs, these manuscripts, is that it is basically a Word document. So it's not laid out in the fancy way, and it does have some look for page XXX. Don't put those into the errata form. They are going to be done once the editing, layout, and indexing is completed. But that's a long ways off for the moment. But how to use a book is a really good section because it tells you what to expect going further. You have the introduction, which we are covering right now. We have the world, which explains the world of Curseborne and how it differs from our own world, as well as a brief introduction to the lineages that comprise the accursed. Lineages, here we detailed the lineages and their families. You'll find the paths necessary for character creation in each of the lineage mechanics sections. So that's where you're going to have your rules for your dead, your hungry, your outcasts, your primal, and your sorcerers. Accursed is where you now know everything about the lineages, and now we go into more detail about the daily lives of the accursed as a whole. There's the story path system, which describes the story path ultra system and how it's used in Curseborne. This might, I'm assuming, go into detail about the curse die mechanics and things of that nature, similar to what we've seen in the Ashcan, probably. So if you have the Curseborne Ashcan, you might have an idea of how that section is going to be laid out. Making an accursed, here's where we have character creation chapter, which has all the steps you need to create a character, along with all the paths that you need to pick from to build your character with. That's probably the best section to have once we start wanting to make our own characters. I'm really excited for when this one comes out, because this basically is going to open the floodgate a little bit for people to make their own characters. However, we also have the aspect here of the chapter of the accursed magic. This chapter has all the mechanical toys your characters have access to, including practices and spells that characters can cast. I think if I look at the Kickstarter page, which I might just drop in here so I can show you guys. So the Kickstarter page does have publicly noted here. If I go to where funded, all the way down here, it tells us when these sections are going to be released to the public. So first up, we have the preview 1, which is what we're covering today. Then the next 5 are the lineages. And then manuscript 3 is Making Accursed, which is coming out October 21st. And then October 23rd is when we're getting the Accursed Magic. Now, this is when I think we're going to be able to make our own characters without too much issue. The only thing is you won't have antagonists to throw at your players, but I think if you have the Storypath Ultra Core rules or even some Storypath books lying around, you might be able to finagle some enemies yourself if you want. There is a rough draft of, not a rough draft, an unofficial copy of the character sheet that you can find on the Onyx Path Discord. I'll post a link in here. You might have to dig for it a little bit in the Curseborne channel, but it is there. So basically, in 3 days, we are going to see the Dead manuscript drop, and then the Hungry 4 days after that. That's the Storypath Ultra preview. If anyone has any more questions about the system or anything, just let me know. Story guiding. This story guiding chapter instructs you on how to run a game of Curseborne and gives you tips and ideas on how to tie the game to our themes and setting. Then we have adversaries. This chapter includes rules for antagonists and allies your character might come across, how to build them, and selection of interesting antagonists to drop immediately into your game. Antagonist section or an adversary section is always my favorite of any of these books, because what's the use of having heroes if they don't have something cool to go up against? Want to get started? You can just jump around the book. That's what this this section really advises. I'm going to put up the little image holder here to just entertain you while I go through the rest of the PDF, because it's really just text. You're not missing too much out. We did talk about hope as being a theme that is about in this game. Rebellion. Your characters are rebels, even if they are not actively fighting against injustice, their family, or an institution. They find themselves embroiled in other characters' stories that are engaged in such fights. Community is key. While the world is cursed and everything sucks, it's hard for an accursed to go at it alone. Your characters are stronger together, and if someone fucks with one of them, they fuck with all of them. So yes, this book does swear. If you were looking for a book that goes hard in the swearing, look no further than Curseborne by Onyx Path Publishing. Anyway. We do have here an introduction to Storypath Ultra. In Curseborne, you play out your stories of your curse and their crew. These make up the main cast of characters as if they were playing through a movie or TV series. Players each take on the role of a single character and make decisions for that character for how they act. One player, the story guide, is responsible for setting up the scenario and stories that the characters will be playing through. Imagine if this player is the director of the show, giving cues to the actors and setting the scenes in which they act in. Now, we do have a little bit more discussion here about how the system for Storypath Ultra works. I am summarizing this heavily so that, like, if you feel like you're missing out on stuff, you can get the manuscript copy again. It's on Kickstarter right now. If you back at the $5 level, you get access to the manuscript itself. $5 level is really just sort of like, if you are a little bit hesitant, you can toss in, like, I guess $5 is the equivalent of buying two or three candy bars, so it's not that much. Though I know some people like me can have problems with being able to drop $5 for something that's entertainment. In any case, so main mechanics of Storypath Ultra: you roll a d10. You roll a number of d10s equal to your skill plus your attribute. These are basically skills and attributes go from 1 to 5, or typically go through 1 to 5. So you're most likely going to be rolling around between 1 to 10 dice if you're just using skill plus attribute. There's some modifiers that can change that, but that's just sort of the general overview. When you roll your d10s, anything that comes up 8 or greater is counted as a hit. A 10 is 2 hits each. You use hits to reduce difficulty. So as long as you get equal to or higher than the difficulty value of a roll, you can then subtract that from the difficulty. And if it equals 0 or a negative number, you've succeeded at the roll. You can spend extra hits to actually do extra things, which are called tricks. And additionally, there's a thing called enhancement, which are bonus hits that you get so long as you rolled at least one hit on a die. So if you have an enhancement of 2, you roll your dice and you get no hits on your roll. Nothing happens. The enhancement doesn't factor into your roll. However, if you roll those dice, you still have 2 enhancement and you get 1 hit. That is now 3 hits that you have that you can spend to decrease the difficulty or spend on tricks after you reduce the difficulty if you have extra left over. There are things called complications. These are essentially extra factors that are on your roll. So besides from a difficulty, which is whether or not you succeed at a roll or not, complications are essentially an extra negative effect that might happen even if you succeed the roll. So you get to choose, do you want to spend your hits on removing the complication but not succeeding, or by succeeding but taking the complication? The complications usually are things like you take damage because of something like razor wire on a fence when you're trying to climb it, or maybe break something that you have because you didn't buy off the complication, and even though you succeed, your lockpick breaks in the lock, or something of that nature. Now, we do have some inspirational media that we can talk about here. These are things that you can watch. I'll show this screen because it's not too much of a problem, I think, if I show you like the names of movies. So stuff that has inspired people who have written this book, stuff like Akata Witch, Beautiful Creatures. I'm not much of a reader, so none of these books actually resonate with me. I apologize. A Discovery of Witches, The Dream Quest of the Unknown Kadith, Fangs, Needful Things, and Indeed Any Work by Stephen King, The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman, Rat Queens by Curtis J. Weeb, and Rock Upchurch, Saga, Things We Lost in the Fire, The Unkindness of Magicians, and The Vampire Lestat by Anne Rice. That's the only book I actually own from this list. I feel bad. TV shows, though, and movies. We have Being Human, which is a TV show, the UK and the US version. You have The Crow, the film from 1994. There was never any other Crow, in my opinion. The Chilling Adventure of Sabrina, the TV show, Dracula Untold, The Fall of the House of Usher, and Indeed Any Work by Mike Flanagan. The Magicians, all those things. I'm not going to go into too much detail. Danielle and Matthew Dawkins did put a Spotify playlist thing, I think, or maybe it's a list of music that they were listening to get some things like running around in their brain while they were writing. They put that up on Discord if you're interested. I think you can probably find it with a quick search. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to toss them into the chat. X-Files, Wednesday, Warrior Nun, Twin Peaks, a lot of good shows. I highly suggest checking out this full list if you wish. Any case, putting up the little filter here. There should be a thing. It's like a privacy screen or something. Now, that was just the introductory chapter. 20 minutes, got through it pretty quickly. It's a very short section. But honestly, I don't know if anyone from Onyx Path is listening, but we are I would really like to see a lexicon, if possible. I really have a lot of words that I'm having trouble with. Any case, second chapter of this manuscript, and people who have left, I feel bad for them because this is where the good stuff starts, even though it's all been good so far. The world. The world of Curseborne isn't so different from ours. It's just ever so slightly weirder. The supernatural exists, and it creates near perpetual tension and fear. That ruined church at the end of the lane is creepy, inspiring nightmares in the minds of everyone who lives within sight. The paranoia surrounding the disappearance of those local girls spreads like pernicious mold, locking down the entire community in a gradual state of paralysis and later violent reaction. Avoidance is the chosen course of many. Avoid that part of the city. Avoid that strange family in the rundown house. Cross the road and speed up to avoid that assault in progress. Avoid that monster. Don't even think about confronting it. Others handle the strange with ritual. Jump over the cracks in the pavement. Count backwards from 30 every morning upon walking. Always put a coin in a beggar's cup when you pass him on the way to work. Never take the first bus. Always wait for the second. And of course, curses here are real. They have weight. They impact lives, families, societies, places, events, and fates. The world of Curseborne is similar to ours, but there are parts of it, people within it, and incidents that make it different. Make it cursed. Just a little taste of it. Now, we do have a bunch of sections in here. This is going into a lot of the lore, magic, perceptions of reality. I'm going to be reading this summarized. I'm going to be jumping around, so feel free to put me on in the background as I read off some of this. A woven tapestry. Curses are part of the world the way that weather patterns are a part of the world, and not just local weather. The climate we exist in. It creates a pattern across everything, everyone, and everywhere. A small current here or change in pressure there creates effects felt halfway across the world. They are part of the fabric of reality and are such an ingrained part of existence that people barely notice them. Many people are born to superstitious families with ritualized traditions. They're taught from an early age to always throw salt over the left shoulder to ward off evil. They're indoctrinated that one must one should never turn off the television until the broadcast ends. They know that when a cloud of moths clusters in an alley or a string of them seem to lead you someplace dark and unknown, it's best to turn and walk the other way. They might not believe in these traditions, but they practice them all the same. It's a good thing they do, because breaching rituals formed from ancient pacts is a good way to end up cursed. Those who fail to do these things become more cursed than others. More cursed because nothing staves off curses forever. There is no true balm for the weather except to stay inside and hope it passes you by. This is an aspect of Curseborne, if you haven't been following along with the blog posts. The curses that affect the accursed, the supernatural characters that you play as in Curseborne, are affected by familial curses that are strong and potent. But normal people, mundane people, are affected by curses every day, though they are a lot more minor than we would associate with. For instance, breaking a mirror and getting 7 years bad luck is a curse that might affect someone. Crossing a black cat's path, or any of the other numerous things that we see as superstitious in the real world, have physicality and have some sort of trade-off in this accursed world. Now, it's not known by people. A lot of people still think it's superstitious, but you will have aspects of this in the world where people maybe get a fortune cookie that says October is going to be the best month for you. And you go through October and you don't think it's the best month for you, but then you realize that every other month that you've had that year is terrible. These are the types of things that we are working with. Anyway, continuing on. Those who wake up tangled in cursed threads find every instinct screaming at them to escape, but it's too late. A major curse has shown up and ruined their life. Life is hard enough with underpaid jobs, piss-poor healthcare, and news media normalizing the extreme messages they pipe onto everyone's monitor, TVs, and phones. It's tempting to drink some vodka, smoke some pot, and block out the pain with the barrage of endless streaming options. After peering over the precipice once, few go seeking the truth. This is very reminiscent for me for the Ashcan. If you play through the Curseborne Ashcan, there is a slight spoiler here. People who are basically glued to their TV for supernatural reasons. I won't go into detail though. The last, they aren't the only I'm sorry, I skipped around a little. Then there are those who couldn't sidestep their curse. Maybe they went looking for it, maybe they didn't. They certainly aren't talking about it in any online forums. They got slammed in the face with a curse so huge it's a damnation. Maybe they deserved it. More likely than not, they didn't. But a curse didn't just scratch them or ruin their lives. It fundamentally changed them. These are the accursed. They are the sudden downpour and freak twisters that disrupt the weather patterns, but do not change the climate. The accursed are touched by a curse in a way that makes them different, other, and wholly supernatural. They aren't the only supernatural things out there, but they are the ones who most people encounter with any regularity, whether they realize it or not. The last group, the few who accept the truth of what it is, may be enlightened, but their lonely existence is nothing to envy. They come across as conspiracy theorists with more of a life online or in cloistered groups and clubs, chattering up like-minded obsessives. It doesn't matter who, as long as someone listens and agrees. Such people dedicate their lives to seeking out answers. The big reason a curse flock together is because of these people. Sorry for my alarm. These people, because when curiosity turns to desperation and they realize they're never going to get the attention they're looking for, they pick up weapons, form gangs, and call themselves hunters or venators. Then they turn their fear into anger and take it out on the accursed or some other poor bastard in their orbit. The world of Curseborne isn't so different from ours. So far, that we still have a lot more to go through, but I'm really liking how Curseborne has set this up. Again, if anything I say to you right now has sold you on Curseborne, you can check out the Kickstarter. Backing just at $5 gets you the manuscript, so you can check it out yourself without having to worry about paying the $25 for a PDF copy with the layout done and artwork included. That being said, manuscript is still fun to read, even if you've backed at those higher levels, because it gives you an idea of what you're going to get once the full book comes out. I really like running from the manuscript just because I've been waiting for this for such a long time. I'm excited. Now, we just talked about the Venerators. The Venerators are hunters. We did see a blog post and that image of the Red Riding Hood in a red hoodie that just sort of cropped up a second ago. That is, I think, a Venerator. I'm not sure about that. Don't quote me on it. But basically, they are people who are able to, are the hunters of the setting. In particular, for the Red Riding Hoods, I think the abilities that were previewed in the blog talked about basically taking the powers of a curse that they had killed, because they are trophy hunters. So they'll take parts of an curse, like a werewolf's pelt or something, put it over them, and it'll give them like super strength or something like that. In any case, continuing on, a woven tapestry. Curses are part of the world the way that weather patterns are a part of the world, and not just the local weather, the climate we exist in. It creates a pattern across everything and everywhere, a small current here, a small change here. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. I went backwards. That's my bad. Apologies. Magic, fair, and foul. The magic tastes like cinnamon on my tongue. No, cinnamon and a hint of lemon. It feels harsh and overpowering, but there's a zest, a freshness to it that feels like wonder, like rejuvenation. I would have become a sorcerer for that feeling alone. That feeling of waking up, working wonders with a thought, a gesture, a tiny sacrifice. Yeah, it's all about sacrifice. Sure, someone might get hurt, but I want to feel this way forever. Why shouldn't I? Now, we do have a little bit of knowledge about the sorcerers from things like the actual plays that Danielle and Matthew have done, as well as I think there was a thing earlier where people were going over. There was an all sorcerer game, I think, earlier today. Not too sure about that. It might have been on Queen's Court Gaming, I think, or it could have been on the Onyx Path Twitch. I'm sorry. There are so many Curseborne games going on right now. I am really excited to watch those actual plays or listen to them on my commute. With curses comes magic. The web it weaves over the world causes some truly unhinged circumstances and physics-breaking realities. This is indistinguishable from magic, and most people do not understand the difference between a curse and a spell, or a magical entity and an accursed. There is little difference to speak of, and those who study such things find it frustrating at every turn, as the two seem interlinked, with redundancies and contingencies that would make a neuroscientist scream. This is where I think if we were to look at accursed and other supernaturals together, I feel like it would be, like, a personal opinion here, it's the equivalent of looking at light. Is it a wave or a photon? Depending on if you're looking at it at different ways, it's both or one but not the other, which is always interesting to sort of think about. everyone discovers magic differently. Some witnesses its effects firsthand. A wolf-shaped man charges toward you, clad in elemental fire. Someone drops their mask to reveal their true self. A body rises from the dead to claw, gnash, and moan an endless hunger. Others discover magic via instinct. You know opening the door unleashes something terrible. You know the man claiming to be your father is something other than human. You know this antique pottery can grant wishes. Some people are fortunate enough to view it through lens, a shoddy TikTok recording, a tubby ghost hunting, a tubby ghost hunting special that seems eerily on point, their camera picking up images that their eyes cannot. And of course, there are those for whom magic was just something of fairy tales and role-playing games until they were cursed. In these cases, the scales fall from their eyes and they're suddenly aware that all ritualistic practices and superstitions were right. Curses are magic, just as much as spells they'll come to spells they'll come to wield. Ah, man. Sorry about that. Talking so much, I have a little cough. Anyway. Continuing on. Perception is reality. For mundane people, suddenly realizing magic is real is a frightening thing. Few can master its effects, and those who do so become pariahs and end up as accursed. Otherwise, magic is something done to them. They may resist it, they may overpower and curse, but they have no doubt that magic is to be avoided, and those who wield it are threats. Most would prefer to go back to blissful ignorance. Unless their encounters with magic were ones designed to remove memories, people remember the events perfectly fine, however they rationalize it to themselves. How they rationalize it to themselves, though, is a different story. This is where Curseborne leans more into sort of the somebody else's problem field of knowledge, where basically people know the supernatural exists, or they don't want to know about the supernatural existing. Essentially, they'll think about if they see a werewolf transform in the woods, they are not going to say anything about it because they don't want to be labeled crazy. Now, they might talk to people on message boards and go into it, but they aren't going to say too much. With the rise of AI technology, even though I don't really want to support it in a monetary fashion or any of those types of ways because I have problems with it. Sorry, getting off soapbox. AI right now could basically be an explanation for why a video looks like a supernatural creature is attacking people, or CGI, or any of the other things that have come out in the recent years. It is a lot harder now to basically justify something as supernatural when it's so easy that it's for people to fake things. Personal opinion there. I in the ash can they did talk about this type of thing. Ban that person for spamming a link. God, it's the same bot every time. Okay, now we can continue on to rationalizations. I open my mouth. I close my mouth. I shiver. Finally, I blurt out. I call it the raccoon theory. Then I explain. It's not that we aren't aware of curses. We all are. It's only a secret in the way that a raccoon is a secret. No one is actually hiding raccoons from us. There's no grand conspiracy to suppress the knowledge of raccoons. We catch glimpses of them sometimes. More often, we see signs of their passings. We find garbage cans with the lids popped off. We see the refuse strewn about, and it tells us a garbled story. Yeah, we know about raccoons, but on the other hand, if someone asked you how many raccoons you saw last month, or when you saw one last, you might not be able to answer. If you got asked how many raccoons are there in the city, or if you needed to find a particular raccoon, would you even know where to start? Thinking back, I think the last time I saw a raccoon was eons ago because they only come out at night. In any case, weird and bad things happen to people so often, they often perform rationalization by rote as part of a normalized ritual that everyone engages in. It isn't groupthink so much as a natural response to living in a world full of curses. People may not fully comprehend what they're dealing with, but they develop ways to handle it despite their half understanding. There's things about protective tradition. It's amazing how readily some people will rather claim the CIA are putting drugs in the water supply or Pfizer have put 5Gs in our vaccine over that was magic and it actually happened. To these individuals, it makes more sense than accepting there's a whole world of dangers and curses out there that can't be explained, or that they can't explain. These people can be just as dangerous to the accursed as those who believe magic is real and they're suffering its effects. So this is where basically it seems like it's more likely that people are going to accuse some sort of a curse activity as a government conspiracy because they're mistrusting of authority than they are to think of it as something that is magical happening. I mean, what is more likely that there are fairies in Roswell, New Mexico, or that it's aliens being covered up by the government? That's the type of question that we seem to be posing here, I think. Inlays and inroads. While the world of Curseborne might look like our world on the surface, it is fundamentally different. Everything's a little more threatening, slightly weirder, and a lot more cursed. Curses pattern over everything, creating a magic and strangeness that's hard to ignore. Curses are the reasons that good people still end up in bad situations. They are the minor inconveniences that pepper your day. They are the cosmic reflex that you do something so stupid you deserve whatever it comes to you. But curses are not the cause, they are the symptom. The corruption that comes with power isn't curse-fueled. Billionaires, CEOs, politicians, dictators, religious leaders are capable of doing horrible things all on their own. Of course, they'll sure as shit take advantage of curses to maintain their power. As those kinds of people take advantage, curses propagate and flourish. This is where you get into what I feel is a really good way of doing urban horror or urban fantasy. Don't blame the supernatural for real world tragedy. Real world tragedy happens, and maybe people will try to benefit from it in some way. Someone's always trying to sell something. That is sort of what we're looking at here. Maybe a war happened. The war wasn't caused by the hungry, but the hungry found out that, if they go around talking to the right people, they can get people to feed on easily enough from the opposition and things of that nature. The world is cruel, unjust, surprisingly helpful, fraying, and always unpredictable. Even the accursed have more investment into curses, cannot predict the way a curse will play out with true accuracy. They can forecast and speculate, and even make educated guesses that prove true more often than not. But just like weather forecasters, their insight is limited. Their predictions can change at a moment's notice, and they certainly cannot change the state of the incoming weather. This is the type of thing that I like to think about when it comes to beings with prophetic vision. Just because you can see the future doesn't mean other people can't. So if you have someone who's trying to use prophecy to forecast something into the future, very far into the future, someone else might have seen similar things and is trying to do the opposite of what you're doing. And you end up fighting prophet versus prophet and things of that nature. Again, if you have any questions about Curseborne, feel free to throw them into the chat. I'm happy to answer them as best as I can. I do have a kind of encyclopedic knowledge of this from when I was doing research and things of that nature. Only thing I can't do is talk about stuff in the future that haven't come out yet in the manuscript. Uh, Unfamiliar familiarities. I fly high over the city. I take in the twinkling lights from streetlights and refracted TV screens as they blink by. I study it all. I mesmerize actions, motions, behaviors. I breathe in the distant smells of exhaust fumes, cooked dinners, and the perfumes and aftershaves of people about to hit the street for tonight's fun. I pick up traces of sweat, blood, and fear. This is my city, though people within it don't know it. I used to hate the word outcast. I would question, why would we refer to ourselves like that? But then I learned the strength of the word. I learned the truth of it. And I learned that being an outcast didn't mean being a monster. It meant that interests and occupations, friends and allies would need to be found on the outskirts, in the hidden spaces, among the hidden people. Outcasts like me, even where they don't use the name. Outcasts are one of my favorite lineages types so far. They have an interesting effect, at least in the Ashcan. I think that I'm not sure if stuff has changed much from the Ashcan to the manuscript. I do know there was a blog post today actually that did talk about some changes that happened with some mechanics. The cursed dice mechanic, for instance, did change so that wicked successes and cruel failures happen less often, but I don't know if, for instance, things have changed with the damnations for the outcasts or any of the other lineages. But in the Ashcan, outcasts basically got their curse dice from making deals with people, creating bonds with people to essentially like establish new connections with them. And when that happened, they would gain curse dice. I imagine it as things like making a deal with the devil or being a guardian angel to someone. But the way that it was described in the Ashcan was a lot more open and generic. I did at one point think that the outcasts could be fae, or like some fae equivalent where you could make a deal like sort of like a brownie from fairy or fae lore, folklore. But it seems like fae is another term for a different type of creature in Curseborne. We did have a blog post that did talk about fae in more in-universe terms. I don't know enough about that to really talk about it more so than they seem to be like a progenitor type thing, but maybe not. Like, they're sort of whispers about what they could be and who they are. Similar to the Archons, I'm not sure who the Archons really are, but it is a term that gets thrown around a lot in reference to very strong creatures in Curseborne. The world feels familiar, except for when it doesn't. Curseborne looks like our world at a glance, but any deeper look reveals the vast differences. Take a drive through the city from end to end, passing through exacting tended residential boroughs. You hear the sprinklers pop into life and lawnmowers fire up. Watch kids in a shoving match as they await the school bus. Was that a for sale sign planted in the front lawn? Speed up as you approach the house where that man killed his wife and kids, then himself. Was that a for sale sign planted in the front lawn? Ignore the yellow balloon you saw tied to a streetlight. You know what it means. Get the hell out of this idyllic suburb when the wizened woman approaches your car, with her shopping cart filled with bottles, each of them containing a rolled up message. She tries to stop your car, take your wishes, and seal them away. There's a lot of description about the different locations in here. For instance, the foundries. You can't help but admire the old way of life this place represents and wonder at the attitude of the people who worked here. Now, The staff here are skeletal in more ways than one. The fumes belching from the chimneys and ducts force you to choose to close your windows and vents. God, a lot of moths have smashed into the windshield today and are trapped beneath the wiper. Disgusting. Now it's the inner city. You've fond feelings from this place. It's where you grew up among all the abandoned row houses. You slow down as you recognize a gang tag on one of the tenement walls. A happy, troubled childhood. You played with the wrong crowd for a while. It's a tragedy what happened to them. You suddenly remember when you and your friends found a body in one of the vacants here. How you made a deal with your buddies to not call it in, and instead come back day after day to watch it decompose. Downtown, it lives up to its reputation, crowded, overwhelming, and easy to get lost in. The bars and clubs are only half the environment. You and your friends would sneak into the movie theater here through the side entrance. You smile at the memory of your first real kiss. It was there in the park, under the sycamore trees. Neon lights up dim windows. The curled letters invite you into the smoky lounges where anything goes. Tourists stroll blithely around, and against your instinct, you shout at one to, "Don't make a deal with the watchmaker." "Who's the watchmaker? Why did you say that?" You speed up embarrassed and nearly hit an enormous dog in the road. She just holds her ground and growls at you. There's interesting little details here about the setting. This is a lot more detailed than I imagined. I'm going to speed through this because we have about 10 minutes left. We have some supernatural places called liminalities. They are the liminal spaces between magic and the mundane, where curses run rampant and people can't help but encounter them when they get there. These are things like, don't get off the elevator at the 20th floor, or don't leave the trail at nightfall. Liminalities draw vloggers out of the woodwork, compel people to write creepy pasta stories, inspire bizarre photographs that defy rationality. The simplest and least harmful of the liminalities are the heavily occupied buildings, such as popular hotels or busy offices. The carpets of the floor with their zigzag pattern, the uniform paint jobs on the walls, the identical doors studding the corridor, and occasional staircases that just descend into nothing can be considered liminal. They do little harm, but they confuse and occasionally entertain urban explorers. There's some example liminalities here. Stewart's Petrified Woodshop in Arizona. Bangor Village Hospital in Busan. Graceland Cemetery, Chicago. Collector's Treasury in Johannesburg. Trafalgar Square, London. Okay, during the day, tour groups take pictures on the lion statues and children play near the fountains. At night, shoppers bustle through the square and lovers sit on the fountain edges, looking up at the night sky washed by the city lights. It's all business as usual, and few people take more than the passing notice of the newest art pieces on the fourth plinth. Plaster cast faces peer out at bystanders stacked one by one. Stacked one upon the other like so many skulls of the dead. The people these casts come from aren't dead, and yet they represent so many who are. A curse has taken hold of any who dares to dishonor their memory. Their voices whisper in his dreams, through the static in the TV and the instant play video on his social media, even in the rustling of the wind on the leaves. There's a lot in here about entering and exiting liminalities. I won't go into too much detail about that because we did see some of this in the ash can. Maybe there's some additional clarification in here, but I'm not too sure about that. We do have a not quite so home. Angel's Cries. Man, I'm going through a lot of this. I might leave some of this in for the future. We do have entering the outside, which I don't think we had in the ash can. While any supernatural can open a door to the outside and walk through, finding portals and making your way to them is another consideration entirely. Many portals that lead to the outsides are buried within liminalities, some within more placid ones, but most in battlegrounds or even shattered spaces. Now, battlegrounds are where I believe the outside has bled into the real world, which allows outsiders to basically congregate in battlegrounds. And then shattered spaces are a little bit of a liminality that's a lot more hostile and actually has an antagonist or adversary stat block. There are a few portals not associated with liminalities at all, but discovering one and opening it often leads to a liminality forming. There's a lot to the outside. I think there's... Examples of recorded outside realms are detailed starting on page XX. So, with more to come in future books. And this is where we get... Oh no, we're getting liminalities in I think, the web stretch goal here. Tangled Web Supplement. So we'll get more liminalities and shattered spaces. And then if we get to 120,000, we'll add a set of story guide characters and adversaries that interact with each location. I really hope this does well. I'm excited to see what more stuff we get. Amid the layers and pattern... oh, sorry. It's the power outage that does it. Everything goes dark. Neon beer sign die. The jukebox cuts out. Yeah, that's what it does. The silent coaxes confessions out of the throats the way an electric current pumped into the soil occasions night crawlers to the surface. Chairs and bar stools find their way into the circle of their own volition. More than a few of the pub's patrons are veterans of one support group or another. No one organized this. No one planned this. We just know we have to do it. It's moon gravity. Each of us is a quivering boil fit to burst, lanced by a sharp needle. Amid the layers and patterns and weaves and curses, pockets of space form where magic is so powerful that no one or nothing may master it. Much like the eye of a storm or a calm before a tornado, these places feel unsettlingly pleasant. It's as if a curse so powerful as to vibrate the very air overlooks the space. A curse, call them loopholes. Other curses have no sway in these places. Magic fails to take hold. The effects are striking. If someone is currently suffering under the effect of a curse, it immediately stops when they enter the premise. A cursed mortal is suddenly cured of their mysterious ailment, and active damnations quiet while inside. Of course, these curses are still intact, waiting to take hold again whenever the person leaves, but for their stay within the place of deferment, they have a brief respite from suffering. So this is the place of deferment that got mentioned in a lot of the... it got mentioned in the episode 300 Moth podcast actual play of the Onyx Pathcast. Now, it seems like they've changed the name to call them loopholes because they stop magic in some way, which is good. Gives us a little bit more to work with, I think. Okay, we have 2 minutes left. I'm going to power through and see if we can get through a little bit more. Weft and we. The world is not a giant conspiracy of accursed actors pulling strings and manipulating events. It is instead a pattern of crisscrossing threads and stubborn knots where people encounter curses and are changed by them. There is no escaping curses, no staving off the trouble they bring, and no avoiding them forever. These component parts are truly what make the world of Curseborne different from our own. They fill in the empty spaces between utterances of fear and the realization that it is all within your mind. They crowd the already strange places of the world, making them more sinister and dangerous. So we have the accursed. Those who live under a curse so powerful that it fundamentally changes them from mundane to supernatural are called accursed. They have a damnation, the kind of curse that doesn't ever go away and inherently supernatural because of it. If curses form a web over the world and each place where curses gather is a knot or inlay, then accursed are the thread pulled through the eye of the needle, the shed on the loom that is ready for the next weft, and the moth that eats through the tapestry to make it collapse in on itself. They push through the web and are fundamental to keeping it in place. Anyone can become accursed. Certain damnations work differently than others, but the general unifying factor is that a damnation is something done to you. It could have been a parent, grandparent, cursed to spread their damnation to their descendants like a disease. It might be a stranger on a subway who you looked at wrong. You even damn yourself with your own ill-conceived meddling. You can even do that. Whatever happened, someone gave an accursed their damnation. Despite the apparent ease with which someone can gain a damnation, they aren't the most common type of curse. Spreading damnation to another person requires more than muttering a phrase or a prick of a stuffy doll. The curse must embed in the web deep enough that they can see the threads of a damnation, or it requires the effort it takes to have offspring or adopt someone to meet the exacting requirements of a generational curse. Each curse has a different type of damnation and a different set of circumstances that cause it. We do have details about the dead, the hungry, the outcasts, the primals, and the sorcerers to an extent. I'm not going to cover those supernatural types at the moment. I am, however, going to talk about the phantasms. If you are familiar with phantasms or the dead, there has been reference previously that the dead can become phantasms. Probably the most common type of supernatural, even more so than a curse, are phantasm. This term is a catch-all for any incorporeal entity, whether they're restless ghosts, nature spirits given sentience, or the atrocities living echoes. While not every person who dies creates a ghost, the curse of the world leave many people with regrets and unfinished business at death. Their remains are relentless ghosts who only know their personal desires. Spirits run the gamut of sentient nature, awakened elements, and curses given life with malicious intent. These act similarly to ghosts, but often do not have a purpose or desire beyond survival. Excuse me. So phantasms seem to be a catch-all term for ghosts and spirits and other sort of supernatural, ephemeral beings, incorporeal beings. People accept phantasms are real, or at least accept that other people accept them as real, even if they don't believe they are. Even the most skeptical person has a story about a spooky place where they went that gave them chills. Everyone has a friend who lived in a haunted house once, or who met a ghost. Ghost hunting shows are some of the most popular media on television, past reality TV. There is a discussion of phantoms appearing in everything from novels and video games. We do have being supernatural doesn't create kinship between a curse and these half-formed beings. However, many phantasms know enough about a curse, especially those arrogant fuckers who call themselves the dead, to alternate between fearing and hating them. But what the accursed know, what allows them to parlay with the phantasms and sometimes even make their haunted dwellings a shared sanctuary, is how to serve a phantom's need, whether it's by feeding them hapless vloggers, ensuring nobody fucks with them, or providing relics and curios the phantasms value. Okay, we got that. We do have phantasm dwellings. There is no special ghost realm or a special kind of liminality that holds phantasms. Great, we don't have Twilight that I have to worry about. Their presence in the world isn't a mystery. They cannot be seen because they do not have corporeal bodies to inhabit. That answers a question I've been asking a lot in the chats. If there's an underworld somewhere, it must be in the outside, but phantasms don't have quite enough intelligence or agency to go looking for it. They've got exorcism stuff. They might be stuck in a loop, haunting a person, place, or thing. Loose threads. It isn't irreverent to simply call anyone else affected by a curse supernatural. It's a useful term to mean someone either with a strong enough curse or some other ability to warp reality around them, but without a damnation. Supernaturals come in many different varieties, shapes, sizes, aptitudes, magical aptitudes, investitures, and curses, and entanglement in the web that overlays all that defining each and every single one is a chore. And it's one that humanity is not equipped to do. And the accursed are too self-absorbed to see to it. So it's a catch-all term mundane people apply to literally anything with a hint of magic. And we've been doing it ourselves all the time in the chat room, in the Discord room. Wherever their origins, supernaturals fill in the gaps and make the edges of the world of Curseborne. They are just as much as part of the weave as everything else, but they are a lesser part of it. They are the predictable summer afternoon rainstorm or knotted off end of the weave, a part of the whole, but not the parts that define the world itself. A curse interact with supernaturals with regularity, but many could go days, weeks, or even years without interaction. If they are causing trouble, it might be up to a single family to deal with the local imps to suss out bad actors. If they have wares, maybe 2 or 3 individuals might want what they're selling. If their businesses, then Primal, whose territory is nearby the shop, might stop in nightly on a patrol just to keep tabs. Everyone else passes them by unnoticed, and even people who live and work alongside them may not realize the enormous woman who works as a butcher is a giant in disguise, or eerily accurate psychic in a tiny shop downtown is a Selkie. If they do realize, no one believes them if they try to talk about it anyway. I don't know if there are rules for supernaturals other than a curse, but I could see myself grabbing the Scion rule book, and I think the Scion core rule has stuff for like minotaurs, satyrs, and things of that nature. Maybe it's hero too, I don't know. I do know it gets mentioned that they're kitsune and stuff like that. And I could definitely see if you want to kind of like throw things in there just to have them, like maybe taking stuff from At the Gates or something like that to give it a little thing thrown in there. That's it, actually. I did cover everything in the manuscript for the most part. I did leave a lot out, so feel free to check out the book, the manuscript itself. Posting a link here to the Curseborne Kickstarter. Again, if you had any questions about Curseborne, please just feel free to ask me. I'll be in the Discord itself as well, just hanging out. I really love Curseborne so far. I do have this thing where I'm worried that people might have misconceptions about what Curseborne is. What I will say is if you played story path games in the past, like Trinity Continuum, or have backed things like The World Below, At the Gates, they came from the RPG Anthology, or even the Story Path Ultra Core Manual, you likely know how Curseborne is going to be structured. At the very least, you know a little bit of what you're going to expect from Curseborne. So I don't think you'll have a problem essentially getting it was very I see that Candom Wall has put into chat. It was very hard trying to get work done today with Curseborne's campaign start and the manuscript preview. You have no idea. I had a lot of issues today with Curseborne. I thought I should have probably taken the day off if I had known how bad it might have been. I did get work done, but it was very difficult. I've already backed it. There are a few add-ons here, and I'll transition over to the Curseborne backer Kickstarter just so that people can see it. Maybe resize it a little bit. Oh, resize it so people can see a little of it. Where are we at right now? I want to know. The dice set do look cool. That's actually one of the first add-ons I did for this for myself. So we are currently at $75,000 with 959 backers already and still 29 days to go. This is a huge Kickstarter. I know it's not going to be like actually I don't know that, but like seeing that it hit 75K in one day, less than one day, is amazing. In fact, 960 backers is a lot more than what Storypath Ultra was at this exact time, and that was a smaller backer kit project. Let's see. So campaign wise, we have stuff like for pledge rewards stuff. You get access to the manuscript and the PDF versions. You can get a hardcover book. If you back at that level, you can get the deluxe slipcase version, as well as a deluxe 4-panel story guide screen with that. Additional add-ons we have here. We have you can get the PDF copy, the hardcover book, the deluxe rule book, the slipcase book, the story guide screen, and the Curseborne dice. The Curseborne dice I'm really excited about. Can I get a lot closer in on that? You can see, at least from the picture, it does say design subject to change, but you can see that the black dice have the 8 and 9 and 10 spot yellow, and the yellow dice have it red. So you will easily be able to see the successes on the roll. And then also you can see that the 10 spot is the little Curseborne moth symbol, which I'm really excited to have for myself. Additionally, if you want to back, you can also get like the PDF copies of the various Storypath Ultra games, including the core manual if you didn't back them already. Stretch goal wise, we have a Tangleweb supplement, and we have the Curseborne fiction anthology, and additional stuff for Tangled Webs. Shipping costs. I should have taken note of this. If I did, I should have. Some beautiful artwork in here as well. I have to say, whoever's doing the artwork here, they're doing an amazing job. I really like it. And of course, it says here, risks and challenges that the game might not be made if it doesn't reach its goal. It's going to get made, in my opinion. Oxpath has done a really good job at Kickstarters in the past. I don't think they've had a single Kickstarter fail or backer kit project fail even. And they always deliver. So please check it out. I love you all. Thank you so much for joining me for this lovely time. I can't wait to do next week. And if I'm right, going back to the community updates here, the next backer kit manuscript, or sorry, not backer kit, next Kickstarter manuscript drop is going to be Dead October 4th and Hungry on October 8th. And October 8th is my next beginner's guide, where we'll be talking about both the Dead and the Hungry. It'll be awesome. Hopefully I can get a game of Curseborne going at some point. I really like running games for Onyx Path on the Twitch channel. I could also be doing it for myself or what have you on my own channel. If you haven't followed me on YouTube, I am the Awkward GM Corbin on YouTube. Posting a link in there if you want to check it out. I just put out a bunch of videos. October is going to be Curseborne month. I haven't done any yet for October, but keep an eye on that in the future. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a good one. And please check out Curseborne on Kickstarter if you have. Bye. I've got to transition to the pre-roll. Oh no!